Did some work recently on my sailboat, and I wanted to go through some of the details for an easy and quick way to take care of the bright work on your boat, the teak on your boat. My boat is this Balboa. It's a 1976. It's there in the harbor in Morro Bay, California. It gets a lot of salt air, a lot of fog, and it's always exposed, and so it gets pretty hammered by the elements. I went to the boat yesterday or day before this photo, and pressure washed everything. Just blasted it with a pressure washer. You can see there's some spots here where it didn't perfectly catch all the mold and the bad material off the dirt, but generally it comes out really nice after pressure washing and drying for a day. Then this photo here, you can see I'm cutting one of these priority mailboxes. I'm cutting out a little notch where each one of the handholds is for the rail, and if you want, you can do this, and then you can fit them. You cut the box down the slice and slice the box down lengthwise, and you can push them into the center and create like a little mask if you want to protect your boat either during sanding or finishing. Frankly, I didn't find it as useful as I would have thought, but it was very quick and easy to make and basically free. This is the wood after I sanded it. So I used 120 grit sandpaper and went through and hand sanded almost everything. If there were spots where there was extra mold or buildup, I would use a scraper, or a putty knife can be useful if you hold it right near the edge. But if you go to a woodworking store and you get what's called a furniture scraper, they're very inexpensive and they work really well at peeling very subtle layer off the very top of the finish and cleaning up that and leaving a very nice silky smooth coat behind. And you see I use blue tape behind because I'm getting ready to varnish it. These are the tools I was using. So I did sandpaper 120 grit. I also used a stainless steel brush and the putty knife to clean up things. You can see how it cleaned up. Here are the coatings I was using. I was using a McCloskey's spar varnish. This jar here I had on my boat. It was on there for so long that the cap was actually rusty, but because I had used Bloxygen to preserve it, the varnish itself was still perfectly fine and liquid, and I could just shake it up and take the cap off and use it. So this is an inert gas. You can buy it at Bloxygen.com. It's my company, and I do recommend it anytime you use any oil-based finish. And you can see the McCloskey's has been out on the dock there for a while too. It's all rusty, but the finish inside was protected and totally fine. So this is after one coat of varnish. You can see it's already starting to look a little bit better, and you can see there's a couple of glossy spots, but you know, because you're using a pressure washer and not doing a perfect sanding or machining it, you're going to have little grooves in the wood. You want to put multiple coats of varnish on there and maybe lightly sand in between. The goal being to eventually end up filling all those grooves and having a smooth surface on the exterior. That will just prevent the buildup of contaminants and allow the contaminants to be washed off when you do wash it, and will make the finish last a little bit longer. So you do need to put multiple coats on of any finish. There you can see I was using a badger hair brush, just a little 2-inch brush. That's very good. I've also kind of been inclined to use Purdy makes a really nice ox hair brush, if you can find those. You can find them on Amazon. They don't really sell them at Home Depot, but that ox hair brush is probably my favorite. Badger hair is second favorite, and a bristle brush is my third, choice. And you can get those very inexpensively, even at Harbor Freight, and throw them away if you don't want to clean them. This is another trick. This is called Japan Drier. This is just a chemical you can buy at a hardware store. I noticed our local Home Depot didn't sell it, but our hardware store did. It's about $10 for this can, and it will last you literally your whole life. I use, when I fill that cup with varnish, maybe a third of the way up or something, I would use about maybe a half of a capful of the Japan Drier. And you add this to your varnish, and as it says here, You use it in oil-based paint varnish. It speeds up the dry time. You put the Japan dryer in there, and the varnish will cure and cross-link and dry to a very hard finish in a very short amount of time. It minimizes the amount of dust that settles on your varnish while it's sitting out, and it speeds the time in between coats. So strongly recommended. It's very inexpensive. You don't need very much. Again, a half of a capful for about a third of a quart. Okay, next photo here is some of the woodwork after a coat of varnish, and you see it's looking very nice. Almost looks new. With the 2-3 more coats, it'll look really great. Here's some of the rails with a nice shot in the sun in the background, showing this is, I think, 2 coats of varnish. But you see there's still ridges there. There's still ridges for the wood, so more needs to be done here, and it needs to be sanded and then recoated, sanded and recoated a couple more times until that's a very smooth looking glossy finish. And there's a close-up at the side. You can see also there's little divots in here where the sun has degraded the wood fibers and the pressure washer washed them out. Those all need to be filled in with varnish. So more coats needed, but you can see real quickly, you pressure wash one day, let it dry overnight. If you have a nice little breeze, it dries very quickly. And then the next day you can put 2 or maybe even 3 coats of varnish on almost the whole boat. Okay, thanks very much. Take care. Bye.